ABC Brisbane.
Since the election of the LNP state government, it's used its ministerial call-in powers over multiple renewable energy projects. The latest involves Chinese solar giant Trina Solar. It's scrapped its development application for a big battery in the Mackay region less than 2 weeks after the Crisafulli government intervened on the project. The Climate Council says it's bad for investor confidence in this state. Jackie Trad is the CEO of the Clean Energy Council and she joins me now. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, Kathy. Nice to join you.
Thank you for being here. How many renewable projects have been called in since the LNP government came to power?
Well, we've seen some scrapped and we've seen some called in, and the decision by Trina Solar to essentially scrap their application and disinvest from Queensland, I think, is a very, very stark warning for our transition or our replacement of ageing coal generators with clean renewable energy for Queensland. It is like the canary, I think, down the coal mine.
When a project is called in, and obviously this one from Trina Solar wasn't, they've just scrapped that proposal. But when
it was called in, Kathy.
It was called in. I'm sorry.
It was called in and now it's been scrapped. Yep.
They've scrapped it because it was called in.
Yeah, I mean, the call-in demonstrates an additional hurdle in terms of the approval process. What that means is a chaotic investment environment. The more chaotic the investment environment, or the less certainty the investment environment is, the more likely people or investors, businesses are not going to invest in Queensland and they'll take their capital elsewhere. And that's what's happened with Trina Solar.
When projects are ministerially called in, does that mean they won't ever get up, or they just have more regulatory and administrative hurdles to get through?
Yeah, not necessarily. It's not necessary that they're rejected, but it does add another 2 years to the assessment and application process on average. Now, if you're an investor and you're loading up your investment with a lot of debt to get through all of the approvals process, you get to a particular point, then the rules change midstream, midway, without any warning or notification. You're back 2 years behind your original, assessment and approvals process. You're going to be weighing up whether or not it's worth it. So what our members are saying at the Clean Energy Council is that these are very uncertain times in Queensland. The less certainty, the less investment, the less jobs.
Doesn't this increased oversight just bring the approval process in line with other major land uses like mining and big agriculture? Shouldn't there be the same impact assessment?
Well, can I say, with mining and agriculture, and I have been in the position of being a planning minister in Queensland, so I know this quite well. If we had gone about changing the rules midway through and made them retrospectively applicable, then there would have been an outcry. And this is what happened late last year when the government made the decision to change the application status of batteries and make it applicable to everything that was in the approvals pipeline. So if you want to guarantee investment, if you want to guarantee regional investment, if you want to make sure that we're actually putting the energy generation that's going to essentially replace our ageing, broken down coal fleets, then you need to make sure that that is actually happening and that you're getting the pipeline through to development. And that's not what's happening in Queensland.
The government says it's responding to community and local concerns about site suitability, safety risks, environmental impacts. Shouldn't they be listening to the community, or has there been a failure to let the community know or to educate them on the benefits of the renewable projects that are being proposed?
Yeah, absolutely, Kathy. And look, can I say, our members at the Clean Energy Council have been, consulting with members, and we have absolutely no problem community consultation and participation, social impact assessment has always been a feature of development in Queensland, and every development application approval process has to go through those hurdles. That is not the objection here. But when you have communities where there are just over 400 residents, but more than 700 objections being lodged, you have to ask questions. And recently, very widespread media reporting around AI generated objections going into development application processes for renewable energy projects have been detailed, and you need to ask yourself the question, is this legitimate community concern? And I absolutely believe there is legitimate community concern and that they need to be addressed. But is some of this being generated by people who actually just don't want to see renewable energy projects developed in Queensland? I think that's a reasonable question to ask when you see the number of objections come from communities that far exceed the number of residents who reside in those communities.
It's not unusual for there to be mobilised campaigns. Can you prove the difference between the number of people in the community and the number of objections? And how do you prove if they are AI or they're not just a fabricated name and address?
Well, Rainforest Reserves Australia, it was very well detailed in federal parliamentary committee hearings that much of their activity was undertaken by AI. They have now folded and have set up another organisation because of significant legal bills. But I do have to say, Kathy, there is no doubt that there are genuine community concerns. And our members, our developers, as other industries do, participate in those conversations with communities around what the shared benefit is to development in their local communities, what the state imperative or the state interest is here. And as I keep saying, we've got coal generation in Queensland and right across Australia that is at its end of life. It needs to retire. Callide, for example, is increasingly breaking down.
Problematic, yes.
Yes, problematic. And we need to replace these ageing coal generators with reliable, clean energy, with renewable energy projects. So there's a state interest here and there's a national interest here. All of the sunshine, all of the energy that we generate during the day, when there is heaps sunshine, abundant sunshine, needs to be captured, and batteries are the solution right now in terms of capturing that abundant solar energy and moving it through the grid when the sun isn't shining. So, as I say, genuine community concerns, let's share in the benefit. Our members, our developers want to participate in those conversations, but increasingly we're seeing in Queensland, because of the Chrysler government, a very uncertain investment environment. And as a Queenslander, as a proud Queenslander, I actually despair at the fact that it's less of a certain investment environment today than it was a little while ago. Less certainty means less jobs. Less jobs means less prosperity for Queenslanders.
If the renewable project money isn't spent here, and what your members are telling you is that there's a very uncertain investment environment, where are they going to invest the money if it's not in Queensland?
Well, our members are going down south. They're going to New South Wales. They're going to Victoria, WA. There are other places throughout Queensland where investment is very clear, it's very certain. You don't have ministers changing the rules at the last minute, making those new rules applicable to a pipeline of development. And as I said, the Trina solar decision is a very, very big decision, and we should take heed of what that means in terms of investment certainty in Queensland for renewable energy projects.
What do you want to see happen?
Well, we want to see consistency and clarity. We want to make sure that government is engaging with industry, and I think that has been patchy at best. We need the government to actually understand the concerns of industry, and we actually need these call-ins to be done on a very technical, rules-based process.
Are you saying they're being called in on an ideological basis?
Well, I'm saying that it's very clear from our members that there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of chaos and there isn't very much clarity. And if there isn't clarity, then investment certainty goes down the drain. And that's what we've seen with Trina Solar.